going to begin right now. I know we're running a little late because we went to visit the gravesite of one of our students who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, other known as Avi Hasson. He was an individual who at a later age, I don't know how old he was, but maybe in his 70s, Yosef David Hasson. And he was in his later age. He decided to come learn the Talmud, and he actually was very serious about his studies. And unfortunately, one day he passed away, and that was that. And now he's, no, not that much. 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago. You were probably here. You never met him? You don't remember meeting him? You ever saw a picture of him?
No, it's 3 years ago.
You might have met him like in your early. Yeah. What's the matter? What's going on?
Okay, just
Ignore it.
Rabbi, he wasn't there.
Huh?
He wasn't there. It was 3 years ago.
Pay Bays? You were not here in Pay Bays? You may have just missed him. All right. Now, I want to remind you what we learned yesterday. Yesterday, we had actually two separate discussions. The second one, which is going to lead into today's discussion. Okay? The first discussion that we had yesterday was the fact that Rav Sheshes would fast the entire day prior to Pesach. We initially thought that was because he felt that there was an actual rabbinic prohibition of eating the entire day prior to Pesach, because just in case you might forget to do the Pesach sacrifice, which we tried to use to prove that the Mishnah that we spoke about was speaking about Mincha Gedoyla and not Mincha Ketana. And then we said, no, he did not eat the entire day prior to Pesach for a technical issue, because he knew that if he ate any time the day before Pesach, he would not be able to eat matzah properly on Pesach itself. You have a question?
If the halacha says that Mincha Gedela,
Yeah.
but he holds that his rabbi says all days.
If what halacha says what?
Saying if they say that you're able to bring the Karban Pesach from Mincha
Right.
Gedela, but he holds that his rabbi.
Wait. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who says you? The halacha is that you could only bring it from the Mincha Gedela.
And so that's the whole reason why you have to stop eating Mincha Gedela. Because that's the time you're able to bring the Karban Pesach.
So again, let's remind you what we said. That is the time you should bring the Karban Pesach. However, if you brought the Karban Pesach the entire day, you would fulfill your obligation.
Right.
Bidi Eved. And since you would fill your obligation Bidi Eved, therefore,
was it a chumrah or is it a halacha?
What's a chumrah?
To fast the whole day.
We don't know, because we don't even know if that happened. We determined that it's not exactly why he even did it.
This kind of scenario of that.
What scenario?
Where the halacha is that you're supposed to do it here.
You're asking me a hypothetical scenario, and you want me to give you a hypethetical answer?
No, that's going to
I don't do this. No. What does it have to do with this Gemara?
Yes.
Yeah. What?
He says that his b'di ever you're able to bring it all day. So originally
He did not say that.
Those are havamina.
That the havamina. So again, Rabbi Yehuda Bari Loi, right? Was it no Rabbi Yehuda? No. Who was it?
Yehuda says the name Rabbi Elazar.
Ben Beseida. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseida said that you should be bringing the Karban Pesach, the Paschal sacrifice, from Mincha Gedoyla. However, if you brought it any time from the morning, it would be valid. Right. Now, what's the question?
So we used our logic to deduce, based on our havamina of what Sheshes did.
Right.
That because he holds that, according to his opinion, that you're able to bring it all day.
Yeah.
So that's why he fasted.
Right.
So would that be a chumrah that he did, or would that be like halachically? That's why he'd have to do it. Because
I don't know. I don't know how that's relevant to our discussion, because we decided that that's not the reason. But you're saying you want to understand the Havamina. The Havamina, according to the Havamina, were we trying to say that he's saying it's halacha, or were we trying to say that it's a chumrah? Good question. Good question that the Gemara doesn't answer. You can go look through Mefarshim and see if anybody mentions, if there's a way of knowing one way or the other. Now, to be honest with you, I cannot see a proof of one way or the other way from this particular statement.
I would assume that saying that it's a chumrah, because based on that there was no discussion whether or not the halacha is all day or just between Mechugdalas.
Right, but the fact is that we determined that itself was not a valid proof. Now, if we determined that it is a valid proof, then we may have tried to determine whether it's a chumrah or whether it's not. Generally, when a rabbi did something, we assume that they did something because they thought that was a rule. Right? People didn't just do random chumras. Today, every other Jew makes up their own chumrah. Like, I'm going to be more machmir than the other guy. It's like a competition. Who's going to be more nuts? Are you nuts? Oh, you suck. Oh, we got to be super nuts. Each guy has to be more nuts than the next guy. Right? It's a competition. Who could be more meshugeh? Yeah, it's true, by the way. Unfortunately, there's this competition in the ultra-Orthodox community where people do something that's not necessarily required because it makes them think that they're better than somebody else that's not doing it. In reality, there's no such thing. You don't just randomly do a chumrah. Today, there's times that people do a chumrah, which means they're strict when it's not clear what the rule is, right? When there's no clarity as to what the rule is, then you can be strict. But if there is clarity what the rule is, then you shouldn't be strict. So we would assume, I would actually suggest, based on what I just explained, that the Gemara is suggesting that it was a requirement. Otherwise, Rabbi Sheshes wouldn't do it. Why would he do it? Just randomly fast for no reason? Is he meshuggah like we are today? Chas v'sholom. Meshuggah. All right, good. That's the end of that discussion. Now we started a discussion about leaning, when you have to lean, and the night of the Seder. During the Pesach Seder, the Jewish people, we lean at many parts of the Seder, particularly today. I can tell you we lean while we're eating the matzah and while we're eating that's matzah. Is there matzah there? Yes. There is matzah there. There's matzah there. No, we don't lean by the carcass. We lean by the matzah and by the wine. That's it. Matzah, when you eat the matzah, when you drink the wine, we lean and nothing else. So first of all, this is where we began. We basically said matzah requires a seba. Maror doesn't require a seba. A seba is the leaning. Right? We went back and forth, and then we actually had a rabbi who said that only 2 cups require leaning, meaning 2 cups of the wine. How many cups of the wine do we drink on Pesach? 4. 4 cups of wine. At least 4. He says, it's a Lubavitcher. He's at least 4 cups. What here? Yeah, minimum. 4 cups is the minimum for it. You want to drink more wine? Why not? Yeah, especially when you have strong wine. Right? I like making my Pesach Seder on the strongest wine I could find. Right, a lot of people, what do they buy for Pesach? What do they buy for Pesach? They buy 6%, 7%. They're afraid of drinking too much. Me, I'm like, yeah.
26%, yeah.
Right? And then one year I actually threw up, and I thought it was my fault because I drank too much wine. And then I actually realized that it was because I ate too much maror. Maror, for some reason, because it's so powerful, my stomach couldn't handle. I ate too much maror, and I threw up. Which is a problem because then they say maybe you have to re-eat the whole thing.
Redo the whole Seder?
Some people say you should redo the whole Seder. I don't know. I didn't. I don't think I threw up everything, so I didn't. I whatever. Anyways, I'm not going to get into what I did or didn't do, but yeah.
No, so it's a lot harder in the States.
Why?
You do 2 nights in a row.
Yeah, after 2 nights. Well, as I told you, the wine, the drinking 4 cups of even high alcohol wine doesn't do anything to me. But that maror, forget about it. Like, as I ate like a lot of that horseradish. If you eat a lot of horseradish, yeah. The whole thing gone. All right. Anyways, where are we?
This year's Shabbos Seder?
Is it? No, Saturday night. Saturday night this year.
It could fall on Shabbos.
I believe it could. Yeah. Yeah. Every day on the Jewish calendar could fall out on 4 days of the week. 4 days. Every date on the Jewish calendar. All right. Yes. Meaning there's every date on the Jewish calendar cannot fall out on 3 days of the week.
Friday, Shabbos. What are you talking about?
You're telling me that no date on the calendar could fall out on Friday? Does that make any sense? That means Friday doesn't have a date. I told you every date on the Jewish calendar can't fall out on 3 days of the week, but each day has different days. There's 3 days a week that no date on the Jewish calendar could fall out on. We just skip those days. We just skip the days. There's 3 days a week we just skip. We don't give them a date. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday doesn't have a date on the Jewish calendar. No, so again, every date on the Jewish calendar could fall out on 4 out of 7 days of the week. And of course, each day has different days, right? For example, we say Loy Adu Rosh. It's one of the ones I remember. Adu is Aleph, Dalet, Vav. So Rosh Hashanah could not start. The first day of Rosh Hashanah cannot fall out on Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday, right? And every day of the Jewish calendar has 3 days that they can't fall out. All right, good. Let's continue. We're going to the next part where we're going to speak about Parkadon. Parkadon is somebody that lays down on his back. If somebody lays on his back, lo yishmei aseba, it's not called leaning. The itmar. Right? It's actually the last word on the line is Parkadon. Parkadon means somebody that lays down on their back during the Seder Pesach. They are not fulfilling their obligation to lean. Leaning is not on your back; it is on your side. It says Hasebas Yamin lo yishma Haseba. If you lean to your right side, it's not either called leaning, right? V'loy oida. Not only that, Eloshemo yaktim kon leveishet. Maybe your esophagus will, your esophagus will preempt your trachea, and instead of the food going down your esophagus, your esophagus, it goes down to your trachea. Which one's what? I don't remember. I always get confused. Where are we? We are in the era just before the coming of the Messianic era. We are in the holy city of Tzfat. What number? What word? Parkadon. Yeah. 23 on your pages. Yes. Parkadon. Lo yishmei aseba. If you lean on your back, it's not considered leaning. If you lean on your right side, it's not considered leaning. Why is it a problem to lean on your right side? Which I'm sure if you're watching me, it probably looks like I'm leaning on my left side because the video flips things. But this is my right side. If I lean on my right side while I'm eating the matzah, then it is not counted. I must lean on my left side, and that's the way I did it. Now, there are 2 reasons that is the case. Reason number 1 is because the reason why we lean is because it's a symbol of freedom, right? You'll say, how is it leaning a symbol of freedom? The answer is that today's day and age, most people eat sitting down. In the olden days, if you ate sitting down, you were a lowlife. I'm serious. You were a lowlife. If you were a high-class person, you would they would lean, they would have these recliners, they would lean and they would eat kind of like half lying down on one of their sides. Which side would they lean on? They would lean on their left side. Why would they lean on their left side? Apparently, okay, I don't know if we have any doctors over here, but apparently in the back of your mouth, you have 2 pipes. One's called the esophagus and one's called the trachea. And I keep on confusing the 2, which one's for food and which one's for air. Which one? Trachea is ear? Trachea is ear. What? Trachea is ear, esophagus is food. Yeah? Apparently, when you speak, when you let out air, there's like this flap that covers over the esophagus to prevent food from coming in. When you eat, the other thing happens, it goes the other way around, which means that there's like a little flap that prevents your food from going down your trachea, because if it does, God forbid, you can choke and may require the Heimlich maneuver. You ever heard of the Heimlich maneuver? You take your fist and you punch the guy in the belly. You have to do it in the right shape. I actually learned it once. You have to go like up. Yeah, that's why you have to learn Gemara. That's the way to do the Heimlich maneuver, like this. But without your thumb. Don't do it with your thumb. You might hurt the guy. You might break your thumb. You might hurt the guy. You stick your thumb into the guy's belly. You go like this and then up. Like that. And that is, if God forbid, food enters your trachea or someone's trachea, they can choke to death. And in order to prevent them from choking to death, you have to do the Heimlich maneuver. However, when you're normally eating, there's kind of like your body somehow has this way of blocking it. However, your trachea, apparently, I don't know medical science. Anybody out there want to comment on this? But apparently, the trachea is a little bit to the right side of the throat, and the esophagus is a little bit to the left side of the throat. And therefore, when you're leaning leftwards, then your food is going to naturally just go down your esophagus. However, if you're leaving rightward, even though, right, I've actually tried this just to kind of like, play with my life, like get this rush, right? Oh, I always read the Gamara. I tried to eat, if you eat leaning to your right, it doesn't mean you're automatically going to choke, because your body is somehow used to that when you eat, it only lets it down the esophagus. However, it is more likely, because it's to the right, it is likely that your body either, won't protect it properly, and it's basically, it's more likely you're going to choke. Now, since it's more likely you're going to choke when you're leaning to your right, therefore, whoever would eat would always lean to the left. And therefore, if you're not leaning to your left, you're not really leaning the way that free people would, because free people with brains would never lean to their right, because it would be physically dangerous for them to do so. So therefore, they would lean to their left. Yeah? Makes sense? Good. So therefore, we say both things. Number one, we say if you lean to your right, it's not considered leaning. Number two, we said that it might kill you. Right? Now, why do we say the second reason after the first reason? Because the first reason really is because that's not the normal way of doing it. Because normally people lean to their left and don't lean to the right, therefore it's not considered the proper leaning. Yeah? Good. Can I know how to? Where are we? Good. So that's the end of that. Now we're going to go through a few other options about leaning on the Pesach, in the Pesach Seder. It says, Isha Eitza Baila, Loy Boy Yaseba, a woman by next to her husband does not need to lean. Yep, a woman does not need to lean if in the presence of her husband, right? Yeah.
What if the woman's divorced?
Well, then she doesn't have a husband. We said a woman in the presence of her husband. If a woman's divorced, then she doesn't have a husband. I think.
Right.
Unless she got remarried, in which case, even though she was divorced, but she's not divorced anymore. Right? Would you say a woman that was divorced and got remarried, would you say she's a divorced woman? No.
Yeah, a little bit.
No.
She's a divorced, remarried woman.
Yeah, you would call her that?
Not to her face.
Not to her face. Exactly.
Smart guy.
Smart guy. Divorced, remarried woman. Divorce. That's what I deal with as a Ton Rabbani. We do this all the time. Deal with divorce. It's
Never
not
get
easy.
divorced if you never get married.
Huh?
You can never get divorced if you never get
That's
married.
true. That's true.
Just saying.
So that's why you should get married. So you should have the opportunity to.
You can never win a race if you don't
Right.
start either.
Yeah.
Never
Anyways.
don't start.
Yeah. When people get divorced, so they're like, oh, wow, you did a mitzvah. Not everybody gets to do the mitzvah. Right? It's a mitzvah to divorce your wife. Yeah.
It's also a mitzvah to remarry the same woman
Yeah, it's also married. Yeah.
So
It's,
what do we do? Like
after divorce.
huh?
they take a 2-week break. Like, I'm done with all this. Take a 2-week break. And then
Yeah.
go get to the mitzvahs.
Agree to do that just to do mitzvahs?
No, you shouldn't. No, because first of all, it says that the mitzvah is that if you don't like your wife, you should go through the divorce process rather than just basically abandoning her and leaving her. You should make it clear. There should be clarity, right? So the mitzvah is in the situation that you want to get divorced. If you don't really want to get divorced, you shouldn't get divorced, right? As a matter of fact, as a Ton Rabbani, a person that's you don't know what that is. It's called a rabbinic attorney in Israel. Every divorce has to go through the rabbinate. A Jewish divorce has to go through the rabbinate, and I am a attorney for such divorces, and I've dealt with this in the rabbinate over here.
Oh.
And I can tell you that, yeah, I don't remember my statement now that you asked the question. Anyways, I could tell you that it's not an exciting experience, right? Divorce is not something you ever want to go through, and if you did, you would know that usually, most cases, right? Depends.
Can't stand your wife.
If you can't stand your wife,
You have to get
well, after the divorce is over, trust
I say
me.
the process.
Let me tell you something. The process. Let me tell you something that there's something about divorce that brings out, like it brings the worst out of in people.
Oh, yeah.
You go,
100%.
they get into the litigation and they scream and it's like intense.
No.
It's like
You're my-
yelling.
half my
Yeah.
childhood now, Rabbi.
Oof. Right? You ever see two individuals completely? How should I say it? You know. Yeah. Angry. Yeah. Anyways, good. A woman next to her husband does not need to lean. It says because there is some level of respect that she is somewhat, how should I say it? I don't know the word receptive or not. There's a word for that I'm trying to use. That she's kind of
It's like to him.
a little bit. Yeah. I mean, the point is that there's
Receptive? I don't know, sorry.
receptive or whatever it is. The point is that she's kind of in some ways, looking up to him. So therefore, I guess there's a lack of freedom. I don't want to say a lack of freedom because then all the women are going to go, oh, so married women are not free. And they're free, but
They're
there's
not
some
free.
level of respect to her husband, and therefore she doesn't lean, etc. Yeah.
Married men aren't free either.
The im isha chashuvahi. However, if this woman is a very prestigious woman, let's say she is the macher of town, right? Tzriche siba, then she does need to lean. So a macher literally means a maker, but it is a saying used in Yiddish to say somebody who's like a person that makes things happen. They're like the shaker of town. You ever heard this statement? This word shaker. Shaker means like that. Like they make things happen. Yeah, Bain etzel aviv, boy is seifa. However, a son next to his father does require a seifa, etc.
Under bar mitzvah?
Uh,
Under bar mitzvah.
oh, so now we have our Talmudic scholar that says we're talking about a child over bar mitzvah, under bar mitzvah. First of all, we said that he does require a seifa. So who are we talking about?
I would assume it'd be under, because over obviously would.
Good question. So wait a second. So you saying that it would be
Under, they need to say it because over, of course, he's his own man. Why would he not?
why he still has to respect his father? We're saying a woman, because she has this respect to her husband, therefore she doesn't lean. So maybe a son also.
It's respect, or it's like
It's
freedom.
put it this way: it's a level where there's somebody that kind of is on top.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
above you.
So once he's bar mitzvah, he doesn't have to with his father anymore.
But if he's eating next to his father, he still is meant to respect his father even after bar mitzvah.
So respect for sure, but this isn't about
Yeah, but
respect, it's
because
about being owned by the father.
Who owns who? What, a man owns his wife?
Not owned.
No, he doesn't own his wife. I'm sorry. It's actually a myth. It's a myth that people say that a man owns his wife. He
I've
does
never
not.
said those words.
That's what I think. I don't know what type of marriage you're heading into.
Hopefully nothing like that. No, what I'm saying is that there is a certain respect.
Again, in both cases, the point is that a woman has a certain level of respect and awe towards her husband, or should at least. And same thing with a son to the father. However, Rashbam says that a son to the father, even though there's a respect that he has to have, it's more of I guess, a chosen respect. He's not as under the influence, if you want to call it, of his father as a wife is meant to be of the husband. I know this sounds very we have to be very careful because in the modern world, I don't know where this is going to go on the YouTube, and I think they're going to say, what are you saying?
As Merkabel.
No, what I was saying more.
Makabel, a woman is meant to be the mate of her man, which essentially means that in some way she respects the man, she's following his lead. And this is actually the way of a healthy relationship even in modern times. right? I know women for many years decided that they have to be equal to men, stronger than men, powerful, and you go girl type of thing. And where do these women end up? We started realizing single and 50, single and 80, right? I don't know. Whatever it is. But the point is that in a normal relationship, the woman is somewhat, looks up to, respects her husband, and there is some level of a superiority, right? Not in value, not that the husband is more valuable than the wife, but the wife looks at her husband as somewhat of a superior, as a leader, as the one mashpia, as the provider, etc. Therefore, the woman, because the woman, her whole life is kind of like, under her husband's wings, if you want to call it that, nicer way that we use in English. Whereas a son, even though he respects his father, but he's not so much like under that. All right?
I was saying more in the
Good
aspect of everything that the wife owns is the husband's. So
wait, who said that? It's not true. I don't know what you're
anything
talking
that they
about.
bring in when they're married.
Well, first of all, if the husband is supporting the wife and the wife happens to be making income, it goes to the husband, and the reason for that is because because it's not fair that what the husband's going to pay for all of her expenses, and then she gets to keep all of her money. That actually doesn't seem fair, right? But if the husband's not supporting her, or if she wants, she could actually, a woman could actually say, you know what, stop supporting me, and I'll keep my own money.
So I was saying more in that aspect of, with regards to that, especially because it says here that if she's a macher, that she does. For the kid under bar mitzvah, everything that he has is father's. Because after bar mitzvah, he has his own stuff. So that's where I was getting that.
Could be. Yes, we're going to finish in a moment. We started a little late today because they went to the caver of Rav Yosef David. You remember him? Or you weren't here? Yosef David Hasson. I think you came after he passed away. Yeah, but he was an interesting individual, part of our community. So we're going to basically end with that to let the other class go over here. Bezrat Hashem, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining. We'll see you again. Anything else? Any questions, comments?
Do you understand what my point was with that?
What?
It's like anything that the woman makes while the husband's supporting her goes to the husband. As opposed
Right.
to, but why does she lean if she's someone who makes it on her own? Because she's not technically under her husband at that point. So a child under bar mitzvah, everything he has goes to the father.
Right.
Over bar mitzvah, he doesn't. So I would assume that it's talking about it says under bar mitzvah because the same way with the wife when she's making her own money.
I don't know. Again, I know you seem to have this desire to pull ideas into this Gemara that aren't here. It's something that you seem to enjoy doing, and if you enjoy doing, you can go for it. But I don't see here any particular way of indicating one or the other. Right? You're welcome to look up in Mefarshim and see if you can find some type of indication. But as of now, I don't see any indication that says one way or the other. So I'm not going to endorse your theory, other than saying that it's a theory. Very nice. Yeah. And by the way, you would actually have to prove your theory, because when it says a son next to the father, we would assume that it's talking about every type of son, including over bar mitzvah and under bar mitzvah. If you want to say that it doesn't talk, then you need to you have what's called the onus of proof. You need to prove otherwise, right? Again, the Gemara says a son next to the father. It doesn't say old or young. And if it doesn't say old or young, you have to assume it means both, unless you can prove otherwise. But you haven't yet proved otherwise.
No, I'm assuming it's both. That's the whole thing.
Oh, you are some. I thought you said only.
No, I'm saying it's both. And he's saying it's talking about a child under bar mitzvah. That's why he needs to say it, because a child under bar mitzvah, it's obviously has to leave.
I don't see why. Again, what do you mean? He has a biblical commandment to respect his father, even over bar mitzvah.
So it's on respect, because his wife still has a commandment to respect
So
her
what?
husband.
Again, you're bringing in an idea that's not here, right? To randomly take an idea and try to stuff it in the Gemara's words. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not saying it's wrong of it, but you can try. Go ahead, try. But that's not the way I like learning Gemara. And if you want to, if you want to bring me some proof that it means one way or the other, to me, I would assume it means both. And it had to say it for both, not just for one. It had to say it for both, right? And again, from that, I'm not saying it from a theory. I'm saying that that's what the Gemara is saying, unless you can show me otherwise. right? I guess you could bring a proof from somewhere else. I would assume that that's the thing. All right, we're done.
Yeah.
Good. Sei gesund.
Sei gesund.
Thank you for everybody for joining us. We
Ja,
have
geil.
we have a lot of people on. Thank you for coming.
Wonderful.
Please subscribe. If you haven't yet done this, you can join our WhatsApp group by clicking the QR code on the screen. I'll leave it there for about 10 seconds, and then we're gonna close it. Yeah, I put it up there. You see, I know how to use your computer already. All right, we're going to go. Have a great day. Sei gesund. All right.